It's 3 a.m. You're lying awake scrolling through Instagram watching your friend post vacation photos from Bali while you're worried about your credit card balance. Your neighbor just bought a new car. Everyone seems to have their financial life together except you. But here's what nobody's telling you. What you see online isn't reality. Not even close. I'm Pot, and today I'm pulling back the curtain on the actual financial reality of the average American in 2025. Real numbers, real data, no filters, no BS. Some of these statistics will shock you. Others might actually make you feel better about where you stand. But here's why this matters. Understanding what normal actually looks like stops you from chasing fantasies and helps you make smarter decisions with your money. Think about it. If you wanted to get in shape, you'd want to know real fitness benchmarks, right? Money works the same way. You can't improve what you don't measure. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly where the average person stands on income, retirement savings debt, and net worth. More importantly, you'll understand whether you're ahead, behind, or right on track, and what to do about it. If you're serious about understanding money and getting ahead financially, subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. Because I guarantee some of these numbers are going to completely change how you think about your finances. Let's dive in. Let's start with the most basic question. How much does the average American actually earn? According to the latest Bureau of Labor Statistics data, the median full-time worker in America brings home about $119 per week. That works out to roughly $58,000 per year before taxes. If you're making around $28 per hour, you're right there with the typical American worker. Now, this is individual income, just you not including a spouse or partner. Household income, which combines everyone in the home who's working, comes in at $83,730 for 2025. That's actually up from previous years, which sounds like good news until you factor in what happened to everything else. Here's where it gets real. That $58,000 individual income isn't what actually hits your bank account. After federal taxes, state taxes, Social Security, and Medicare take their cuts, you're looking at somewhere between $42,000 to $45,000 in actual take-home pay. That's a 25 to 30% haircut right off the top. And here's the kicker: while wages have grown modestly, they haven't kept pace with the cost of living. The groceries that cost $100 2 years ago now cost $125. Gas, rent, insurance, everything's jumped, while paychecks have barely budged. Location matters too. If you're in Maryland, the median household income is $94,384, it's the highest in the nation. But if you're in Mississippi, it's $44,966. That's more than a $50,000 difference just based on your zip code. So when you hear $58,000 per year, remember that's before taxes eat a third of it, before inflation reduces its buying power, and it varies wildly depending on where you live. For many Americans, that average income feels like it's barely covering the basics. Now let's talk about retirement savings, because this is where things get genuinely concerning. The median amount Americans have saved for retirement in 2025 is $87,000. Now, before you feel too good or too bad about that number, I need to tell you something that's going to blow your mind. 54% of American households have absolutely nothing saved for retirement. $0. Think about that. More than half of Americans are planning to rely entirely on Social Security when they stop working. We'll talk about why that's terrifying in a minute. For those who actually do have retirement accounts, the numbers vary dramatically by age. If you're under 25 and you've got a couple $1,000s saved, you're actually doing okay, you've got time on your side. The 25-34 age group has a median balance around $14,000 to $39,000. Still not great, but at least it's something. By the time we get to people 65 and older folks who are literally at retirement age right now, the median balance is around $200,000 to $410,000, depending on the specific study. And here's where the math gets brutal. Financial experts use something called the 4% rule. The idea is you can safely withdraw 4% of your retirement savings each year without running out of money. So if you retire with $87,000, the national median, you can pull out about $3,500 per year. That's less than $300 per month. $300 per month to live on. Could you survive on $300 a month? Even if you own your home outright with no mortgage that won't cover groceries, utilities, healthcare, car maintenance, and everything else you need, it's not even close. And it gets worse. Recent studies show you actually need about $1.26 million saved to retire comfortably in 2025. The gap between that target and the reality of $87,000, it's astronomical. Most Americans are sitting on less than 7% of what they actually need. Here's another curveball. In 2024 and 2025, student loan delinquency reporting resumed after a multi-year pause. Suddenly, millions of Americans saw their credit scores drop 50, 100, even 150 points. That affects their ability to refinance to get better rates to build wealth. It's like trying to run a race with ankle weights. The average 401k contribution rate is 7.7% of income, which sounds decent until you realize experts recommend 10 to 15% specifically for retirement. And that's on top of any other savings you need for emergencies, down payments, or other goals. Look, I'm not trying to scare you, but the retirement crisis in America is real and it's getting worse. The generation retiring today is the first one in modern history that's largely unprepared. And the data shows younger generations aren't on track to do much better unless something changes. The good news, if you're reading this and you're under 50, you still have time. But that window is closing fast. Since so many people are banking on Social Security to save them, let's talk about what it actually provides. The average Social Security check in 2025 is $2,001 per month. That's about $24,000 per year. Add that to the $300 per month you might pull from your $87,000 in retirement savings, and you're looking at roughly $27,600 per year total. Now, $2,000 a month might sound manageable until you remember that's your entire income. No more paychecks coming in. And with grocery prices, healthcare costs, and insurance premiums all climbing, that money disappears fast. Here's the part that should terrify you. 52% of retirees say they're relying heavily on Social Security to cover their necessary expenses. Meanwhile, 76% of them are worried they won't get the full benefits they've been promised. And they're right to be worried. The Social Security Trust Fund is heading toward insolvency. Recent projections show that by 2032, just 7 years away, beneficiaries could face a 24% cut to their payments. That would drop the average monthly check from $2,009 down to around $1,500. Try living on that. And there's another catch: you can start collecting at 62, but you won't get your full benefit until 67. Most people actually retire around 61 to 62, which means they're taking reduced benefits and trying to stretch them for potentially 25 plus years of retirement. Social Security was never designed to be your only income in retirement. It was meant to be a safety net, not the whole financial plan. Yet for millions of Americans, it's all they've got. Now let's flip the script and talk about what Americans are actually spending. Because earning money is only half the equation. Where it goes is what really matters. The average American household spends $640 per month in 2025. That adds up to $77 to $280 per year. Let that sink in for a second. Remember that median household income we talked about, $80,730. You're spending $77,000 and earning $80,000. That leaves about $6,500 per year for savings, emergencies, and building wealth. That's it. And before you think, well, I can just save that $6,500. Remember, this is average spending. Half of households spend more than this. Let's break down where that money actually goes. Housing is the killer, $2,000 per month, and that's the national average. If you're in a major city like San Francisco, New York, or Boston, you're probably laughing at how low that sounds. We're talking rent or mortgage, property taxes, insurance, utilities, and maintenance all rolled together. Over $24,000 per year just to keep a roof over your head. Food comes in at about $800 per month. That's groceries and eating out combined. And with grocery prices up 25% since 2022, that $800 doesn't go nearly as far as it used to. You're spending close to $10,000 a year just to feed your family. Transportation costs around $950 per month. Car payments, insurance, gas, maintenance, and repairs, that's another $11,000 spent annually. And with used car prices still elevated and insurance premiums hitting record highs, this category keeps climbing. Before we even talk about healthcare, clothing, entertainment, or anything else, those three categories alone eat up $3,950 per month. That's $45,000 per year on just housing, food, and transportation. Financial experts recommend keeping housing and transportation combined under 50% of your income. But at $2,950 per month, for just those two, you're already at 44% of the median household take-home pay. There's barely any room left for everything else. And here's the regional reality check. If you live in Hawaii, average monthly expenses hit $2,730. In West Virginia, they're $1,485. Same country, nearly double the cost. The brutal truth. For many Americans, the math simply doesn't work anymore. Income is up slightly, but expenses have exploded. The cost of living crisis isn't a talking point. It's the lived reality of millions of households trying to make ends meet every single month. Let's talk about your credit score, because this 3-digit number affects almost everything in your financial life. The average FICO score in America is 715 as of 2025. That falls into the good range. Sounds decent, right? But here's the warning sign: that number dropped from 717 in 2024. It's the largest annual decline since the Great Recession. Why the drop too? Big reasons. First, student loan delinquency reporting resumed in 2024 after years of pandemic forbearance. Millions of borrowers suddenly had missed payments showing up on their credit reports, tanking their scores overnight. Some people lost 100, even 150 points. Second, Americans are maxing out their credit cards. The average credit utilization rate, how much of your available credit you're using, jumped to 36.1% in 2025, up from just 21% a year earlier. When you're using more than 30% of your available credit, it signals to lenders that you're financially stressed and your score drops. Your credit score determines everything from mortgage rates to car loan terms to whether you can even rent an apartment. A score of 715 versus 780 can mean paying tens of thousands more in interest over a 30-year mortgage. The formula isn't complicated. Pay your bills on time, that's 35% of your score. Keep your credit card balances low, that's another 30%. Don't open new credit accounts every time some store offers you 10% off. That's it. The problem: with Americans increasingly relying on credit cards just to cover basic expenses, keeping balances low isn't about discipline anymore, it's about survival. Now we need to talk about the elephant in the room: credit card debt. The average American carrying a balance owes between $6,500 to $7,300 on their credit cards in 2025. Total credit card debt across the country? 1.21 trillion. That's an all-time high. And here's what makes it devastating: the average credit card APR is over 20%, actually closer to 22% for most people. Interest compounds daily, not monthly. Daily. Let's do the math. If you're carrying $6,500 at 20% APR and making minimum payments, you'll throw away over $300 per year just in interest. That's money going straight to the credit card company, not reducing your balance, not building wealth, just gone. But here's what nobody talks about. This isn't about people buying stupid stuff they don't need. When researchers asked people what caused their credit card debt, 45% said emergency expenses, car repairs, medical bills, urgent home fixes. Another 28% said day-to-day expenses, groceries, utilities, childcare, the basics. The only 11% blamed retail purchases like clothes and electronics. Read that again. Nearly 3/4 of credit card debt comes from emergencies and survival spending, not splurging on luxuries. People aren't racking up debt because they're irresponsible. They're doing it because wages haven't kept up with the cost of living, and when your car breaks down or your kid needs medicine, you don't have a choice. And it's getting worse. 60% of people with credit card debt have been carrying that balance for over a year. 1 in 5 have carried it for over 5 years. The weight of that debt is crushing. 64% say they've delayed major financial decisions because of their credit card balances. Can't buy a house, can't save for retirement, can't even think about starting a family. The mental health impact is real too. 43% of Americans cite money as having a negative effect on their mental health. That's constant stress, anxiety, shame about the debt, fear about the future. So what do you do if you're in this situation? First, stop the bleeding. If you can't pay cash for something, don't put it on a credit card unless it's truly an emergency. Second, look into debt consolidation loans with lower rates or 0% balance transfer cards to buy yourself time. Third, pay off the highest rate cards first. That 22% interest is killing you. This isn't about judgment. It's about acknowledging reality and finding a way forward. Let's talk about net worth because this is probably the single best measure of your overall financial health. Net worth is simple everything you own minus everything you owe. Your house, your car, your bank accounts, your retirement savings, your investments, that's the own side. Your mortgage, car loans, credit card debt, student loans, that's the owe side. Subtract the second from the first, and that's your net worth. The median net worth for American households is $192,700 in 2025. And here's some genuinely good news that's up 61% from just 6 years ago when it was $120,000. That's real progress driven by rising home values, stock market gains, and the forced savings that happened during the pandemic. Let's break it down by age because this is where the story gets interesting. If you're under 35, the median net worth is $39,440. That's nearly triple what it was in previous years. Young people are actually building wealth faster than their parents did at the same age. Ages 35, 44, $135, $300. That's when careers really start taking off home equity builds and retirement accounts start showing serious growth. The 45-54 group hits $246,700. Peak earning years combined with decades of compound interest doing its magic. Ages 55-64 right before retirement. $364, $270. And for those 65 to 74, it peaks at $410, $1,000. Here's the thing, these numbers look pretty good, right? People are building wealth. The trajectory is upward. So what's the problem? The problem is the gap between the average and the median. While the median household net worth is $192,700, the average is over $1.6 million. Why such a massive difference? Because wealth inequality is skyrocketing. The bottom 50% of Americans own just 2% of the country's total wealth. Meanwhile, the top 10% own over 70%. So when you see those median numbers climbing, that's real regular people are building wealth. But the ultra-wealthy are accumulating assets so fast that the gap keeps widening. The mean versus median tells the whole story. In your 40s, for example, the average net worth is $743,000, but the median is only $75,700. That 10x difference. That's wealth inequality in action. But here's what matters for you personally. Are you moving in the right direction? If you're in your 30s with $135,000 in net worth, you're beating the median. If you're in your 50s with $150,000, you've got work to do. The good news is net worth is something you can actively build. Pay down high-interest debt that immediately improves your net worth. Max out retirement contributions compound interest will do the heavy lifting. Own appreciating assets like real estate or index funds instead of depreciating ones like new cars. You don't need to be a millionaire to be financially secure, but you do need to be moving in the right direction. Here's a number that should alarm you. Americans are saving just 4.4% to 4.7% of their disposable income in 2025. Let me put that in perspective. Back in the 1960s and 70s, Americans saved an average of 11.7% of their income. We're now saving less than half of what our grandparents did. In fact, we're barely above the all-time low of 1.4% hit back in 2005, right before the financial crisis. During the pandemic, when people couldn't go anywhere or spend on anything, the savings rate spiked to 32% in April 2020. But as soon as life returned to normal and inflation kicked in, that rate collapsed. So what does 4.7% actually mean for your life? Let's say you're earning $60,000 a year. Saving 4.7% means you're putting away about $2,120 per year or $235 per month. Now remember all those big expenses we talked about? The average down payment on a home is $62,000. A new car averages $47,000. A kitchen renovation costs $26,000. At $235 per month, it would take you 22 years to save for a down payment, 5.5 years for a car, 9 years for that kitchen. And here's the kicker that's assuming you save every penny and don't touch it for emergencies. In reality, life happens. The car breaks down. The kid needs braces. Medical bills hit. That savings gets wiped out before it ever grows. Financial experts recommend saving 10 to 15% just for retirement on top of emergency funds and other goals. We're at 4.7% total. The math doesn't work. Why are savings so low? High debt levels, inflation eating paychecks, and 33% of households spending over 30% of their income on housing alone. When survival costs consume everything, there's nothing left to save. This isn't a personal failure, it's a systemic crisis. So when do most Americans actually retire? The median retirement age is 61 to 62 years old. Now here's the problem with that. You don't get full Social Security benefits until age 67. That's a 6-year gap where you're not working, not getting your full benefits, and burning through whatever savings you manage to accumulate. And remember those retirement savings numbers. The median $87,000 giving you $300 a month. That has to stretch across those 6 years before Social Security even kicks in at full strength. If you retire at 61, you might be taking Social Security early at a permanently reduced rate just to survive. Here's the other reality. 58% of non-retired Americans say they feel behind on their retirement savings. They know they're not ready, but they can't see a path forward. Let's talk about time. If you retire at 61 and live to the average life expectancy, you're looking at 25 plus years of retirement to fund. That's longer than most people's entire career from college graduation to middle age. 25 years of housing costs, food, healthcare utilities, everything with no paycheck coming in. And here's the cruel part. Those early retirement years when you're 61, 65, 70, those are your healthy years. That's when you can travel, stay active, enjoy life. By 75 or 80, health issues pile up. Medical costs skyrocket. You might need assistance or even full-time care. So the question becomes, do you have enough saved to enjoy those early years? Or will you spend your healthy retirement years stressed about money, unable to do the things you dreamed about, watching your meager savings dwindle? For most Americans looking at $87,000 in retirement savings and a $2,000 monthly Social Security check, the answer is uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. All right, let's pull all of this together. The average American is earning $58,000 a year, spending $77,000 annually. As a household saving less than 5% of their income, carrying $6,500 in credit card debt at 20% plus interest, and heading toward retirement with $87,000 saved when they actually need over $1 million. That's the reality, and it's not pretty. But here's the thing. Knowing this puts you ahead of most people. Most Americans have no idea where they actually stand. They're flying blind, hoping it all works out. You're not doing that anymore. So what do you do with this information? First, save more than 4.7%. Even if you can't hit that 10 to 15% target right away, start with 6%, then 7%, then 8%. Every percentage point matters. If you're making $60,000 and you bump your savings from 5% to 6%, that's an extra $600 per year. Do that for 30 years with compound interest, and you've added over $60,000 to your retirement. Second, attack high interest debt like it's on fire. That 20% credit card interest is destroying your ability to build wealth. There's no investment that reliably beats 20%, so paying off that debt is your best guaranteed return. Third, if your employer offers a 401k match, take it. That's free money. If they'll match 4% and you're not contributing at least 4%, you're literally turning down a raise. Fourth, increase your retirement contributions by 1% every year. You won't even notice $50 less per paycheck, but over decades that compounds into serious money. Fifth, build an emergency fund. Even $1,000 sitting in a high-yield savings account means the next car repair doesn't go on a credit card at 22% interest. Look, I'm not going to lie to you, the statistics we covered today are sobering. The average American is not in great financial shape, but average doesn't have to be your destiny. The gap between financial security and financial stress isn't as wide as you think. Small, consistent actions compound over time. Save a little more, invest a little smarter, avoid a little debt. Do that for years and you'll be in a completely different place than your peers. You've got the knowledge now. The question is, what are you going to do with it? If this video helped you understand where you stand, hit that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment and tell me which statistic shocked you the most. And most importantly, take action today, not tomorrow. Today. Your future self will thank you.